So Jesus taught about return on investment. Oh man, today we're going to talk about some learning and some teaching that came from the big guy himself, Jesus Christ, about return on investment. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of reading from scripture today, as well as talking about it from a financial planning lens. Every once in a while, I'll run into someone that kind of has this thought of like, well, Matthew, you're a believer, but I don't know about this whole idea of just helping rich people get richer. Like, aren't you supposed to be kind of poor and give it all away? And like, money's not that important. And like most things that Christ taught about, there is depth and complexity to all of his teachings, particularly the ones on money. But I'm a firm believer that God has some things to teach us about how we steward our wealth, our time, our energy, all of the different things that we're put in dominion over. So we're going to be talking about the parable of the talents. Okay, the parable of the talents. For those of you that don't know, Christ liked to teach in stories. I think humans are hardwired to hear things in stories. We can grasp very, very deep concepts inside of stories. One of the reasons why kids, adults, everyone, we like movies, we like book stories, we like stories around a campfire. And what was so cool about Christ is he packed all of this depth about his teaching of himself, of the kingdom of heaven, into relatively short parables. So I'm going to do a little bit of reading here out of the book of Matthew. So I'm going to start at chapter 25, verse 14. Again, it'll be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his property to them. To one, he gave 5 talents of money, and to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent, each according to his ability. Then he went on a journey. The man who received 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more. So also the one with 2 talents gained 2 more. But the man who received 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received the 5 talents brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I've gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things, and I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. The man with 2 talents also came. Master, he said, you've entrusted me with 2 talents. See, I've gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. Then the man who received 1 talent came. Master, he said, I knew that you're a hard man, harvesting where you've not sown and gathering where you've not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your talent in the ground. See, here's what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed? Well then, you should have at least put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would receive it back with interest. Take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. Whoever who has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there'll be weeping and gnashing teeth. So there's a whole lot going on in this passage, a whole lot of things that are misunderstood and can be taken out of context. And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I read that, I'm like, ooh, man, the master's kind of being unfair. Like, why are we taking the guy that just has immediately 1 and giving it to the guy with 10, right? Isn't that like the opposite of what most people think? Seems like we should even things out and make those blessings equalized. That's not what's happening here. So in the parable, the master, in this case, is serving as a proxy for God. Right? And I think it's important to note that, well, what is a talent? Right? So a talent would have been about 75 pounds. Okay. And in some translations, it's at 75 pounds, a talent of money or a talent of gold. If it was gold, 75 pounds worth of gold today would be worth about $5 million. Okay. So the guy that got one talent did not get the short end of the stick, right? He was given a tremendous amount of money to do something with. It wasn't his. That's my first point. Everyone's been given things by God. Some of us are trusted with a little, some of us are trusted with a lot. You may have to look for it, but we all have things that we've been entrusted over. We've been entrusted over our bodies. We've been entrusted over some amount of financial standing. You may have a spouse or children or a home or a car or even just a single bed. You have things that are within your purview, things that you have been given. Even the things that you maybe have worked for and, through deploying some of your skills and time, even things that you feel like you maybe have earned, have come to you through a combination of the things that God has given to you, circumstance and help from others, and even some luck in the world as well. So, the first thing is everybody's been given things by God. Point number two, God ain't stingy. He gives prodigiously to his children, to his creation. There are many, many things that we have. But the problem that we run into is that oftentimes we don't measure what we have by God's standards. We measure what we have by looking around with others. If you are in a neighborhood with a lot of nice homes and yours is the crappiest looking house on the place, you're going to feel like you don't have as much. If you're in that same crappy home in a neighborhood of even worse homes, you're going to feel like you're the best. And we tend to measure by how much money we have, maybe how much income we have, what status and renown do we have in the world. And that's not exactly how God looks at it. So God's not stingy with what he gives you. I want to talk about each of these three servants for a few minutes here. So the first thing to notice is that it says in verse 15, to one he gave 5 talents of money, to another 2 talents, to another 1, each according to his ability. So God provides in this scenario a measure of some person's ability. So I'm a believer that if you've been given a lot is expected of you. I think is the concept that Christ is trying to teach. So each of these servants had been given a some amount. 2 of them went out and invested those dollars. They put them to work. They tried to figure out how to make that dominion grow and be fruitful. So in the course of investing in money, this is relatively straightforward, right? If you are given a certain amount of income coming in, what are you doing with it? Are you putting some away for the future? Are you giving some to bless others? Are you spending some today to enjoy what God has been giving to you? There's many different things that we can do with the financial resources that we've had. As a financial planner, I tell people that like the amount of income someone has, the amount of money that they have or net worth that they have, and the amount of happiness or peace, those 3 things are not always strongly connected. Now, if you're completely destitute, it can be a challenge to have peace when you don't have security. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. For most of you listening to this video, you have some things that you can fall back on. So let's talk about each of these servants. One of the things that really stands out to me is what the master said to the first 2 servants. After they had their return, he says, "You've been faithful with a few things, I'll put you in charge of many things." He says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Point number 3, being a good and faithful servant is something that is possible. I know that I can slip into sometimes of thinking that knowing the places that I sin, the places that I fall short, I can be whiny and fearful and wander off. And so sometimes it can feel like you're never actually going to achieve God saying, good job. The type of father that he is, he absolutely sees his children, sees you, and you can hear these statements. Well done, good and faithful servant. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you're not going to sin. We're all going to fall short of the glory of God. But you can steward your body and your health well. You can steward the money that is coming in, or you can kind of let it go all over the place. You can grow your wealth in a responsible way that allows you to do other things later on in your life, whether it's retirement, spending time with kids or grandkids, or even giving some of that away to bless others. All those things are possible in your life, and it's not an impossibility. The fourth point that I want to make that I think is really exemplified by the third servant is an accounting does come. The master does return. He says after a long time he came back and wanted to see what did his servants do with what they've been given to them. Now, I'm not big on fear mongering, like, oh, someday Jesus is going to come back and he's going to be shaking his finger at Matthew for all the things that I did wrong. But he is going to say, like, what did you do with what I was given? Were you a good steward of your kids? Did you help train them up in instruction of the Lord? Were you able to take the dollars and cents and do things that bless others with it? Do you hold on to that money like it's only just yours and this is my personal scoreboard and my net worth's doing nothing but going up? Or are you stewarding that, hopefully watching it grow with an open hand? God can't put more money in a closed fist, right? So you got to be willing to hold on somewhat loosely to the financial position that you have. And I know in my practice, I help people understand the different tools and strategies that we can use to help grow wealth. We're always coming back to what is the reason why we're doing this? Is this to live a life in retirement where you're not having to go to work every day? Or is it to prove to your buddies that, I got an 8% return and my guy got a 10% return, and kind of trying to compare? So I think a lot of this is trying to figure out what heart you're approaching it. So servant number 3 did receive an accounting. And there's something kind of curious in there. It says, Master, I knew that you're a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you've not scattered seed. So he's saying that the master was hard, that he was a little bit dishonest. Now, this is just Matthew's personal opinion here. I don't think that master in the story was dishonest. That's not within the character of God. But I think that third servant is coming up with some excuses. And the master calls him on it. He says, well, you wicked lazy servant, if you knew that I harvest where I haven't sown, do I steal other people's wheat? if you thought me wicked, you could have at least put the money on loan with the money lenders. So in this context, in the Jewish culture, or they weren't supposed to lend money for interest. If somebody needed it, you gave it to them. Now, they didn't always live up to that principle, but it was like him saying, well, if you really think that I was an evil, hard master, you could have at least taken it to the loan sharks to try to get me some more return on it. But you didn't even do that. I think what really drove that third servant was fear of not living up to what his ability was, right? So it says that he was given to his ability. There was a fear that he might lose it. There was a fear of inaction. A lot of different things came along to have him just sit on that fortune. Again, that $5 million worth of gold. So this parable, I think, can teach us a whole lot about the kingdom of God, about what our roles as servants are, particularly when it comes to your investments and your portfolio. I want to really encourage you that, like, getting started can be sometimes one of the hardest things to do. Or maybe you set some things up in the past and you haven't really looked at it. You maybe threw some seeds out there years and years ago, but you haven't been taking really good care of it. I think what Christ is telling us here is you need to take care of what I've given you. The things that God provides, we need to take care of them. Whether that's being a blessing to the people inside of your church or your work, taking care of your own personal financial situation, paying down debt, making sure your investments are set up properly, make sure that you have good tax strategies in place, all the nerdy stuff that financial planners like me get into. It's making sure that you're stewarding all of those resources well. So I hope this is helpful to you. As you know, in these videos, what I'm trying to do is help share timeless ancient wisdoms to help you build wealth and wisdom so we can live a legacy of purpose. Thanks so much and have a great day.